Good morning, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. This episode is a continuation of my troubleshooting series on the weirdness in my transmission, and in it we are going to replace what I believe is a leaking power brake booster. Without further ado, let's get started. So if you don't know, this is your power brake booster, and what it's supposed to do is this is connected to a vacuum source, and vacuum pulls out any air in here, and as the name implies, it gives you a boost to your hydraulic brake system, meaning it's much easier for you to push the pedal to work the brakes. If you don't have this, your brake pedal is kind of like a rock, and you have to really push on it to make it do anything. And I believe that this is leaking. And the reason why I say that it's leaking is that when you turn your car off, providing that you didn't have your foot on the brake, what should happen is you're going to push on the pedal and it'll go all the way down, and you'll hear whoosh, and that's using up your vacuum reservoir inside that booster. You should be able to do that about 2 times with the engine off and be fine. And then you'll be out of reservoir and the brake pedal feel like a brick. What you should also be able to do is, if you turn the car off without your foot on the brake, you should be able to come back out maybe the next morning, and you should be able to push this pedal down and get maybe 1 pump out of it with that vacuum assist, where it's easy to push because it's holding vacuum, right? So, and I showed this in my other video, but basically this car, even if I keep my foot off the brake, when I go to push it down, maybe 10 minutes after I turn it off, I get this. See, there's no whoosh, there's no vacuum assist here. Is dead, and it shouldn't be doing that nearly that fast. So I'm pretty sure that the booster is leaking from an internal seal, because I already went through the check valve, which is what I just showed you, and it's a brand new check valve. It is not leaking. Grommet's in good shape. Booster's bad. I've got other reasons to suspect the booster is bad as well. Okay, look at the booster in the back, and you're going to see some rust streaks. See if I can get it to focus on it. There we go. Some rust streaks back there. That only happens when you have brake fluid leaking from the rear of the master cylinder. Now, I don't know if this is the original master, but it's not a ton of rust, and I don't see active wetness, so I don't believe it's leaking right now, which tells me this was probably replaced. But once brake fluid leaks inside of a booster, I mean, there's a non-zero chance that it starts eating away at the seals in there, and eventually you get a leak. So I also want to see if we're still have an active leak coming out of the rear seals of the master cylinder. So this has got to come out. Now you can see this is going to be challenging. We've got brake lines in the way. We have a master cylinder in the way. We have a degas bottle in the way. And then there's going to be stuff that we need to work on from inside of the van. There's going to be some bolts. We're going to have to move the brake on off switch. It's going to be a little bit of a pain, again, because van, right? Because of the form factor of a van, it's always a little ridiculous. But we'll go ahead, we're going to work on the outside first, and then we'll go to the inside, and then we got to come back to the outside, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started. So our degas bottle is held in with 3 8mm. So we're going to want to do this first, because we need to move it out of the way. figured out a good place to stick this after when I fix the cruise control on this thing. That was an adventure and a half. But you gotta have cruise control. It makes life way more better. So what you want to do is you can kind of muscle bottle over this way without having to spill anything. Now potentially this is still going to be a problem because of where our booster is, but I'm going to see if I can't wiggle it out kind of in this direction, but we got to make room to put our master cylinder over there too, so I'm probably going to have to move this again. Good news here is the bottle's not full. It's that would let me disconnect this line right here. Maybe I can move the, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera. Yeah, you guys can't. So I should be able to disconnect this from here, no problem. And I might be able to move the power steering reservoir somewhere and make enough room to get the booster out. So let me see. All right, as you can see, I have disconnected this line. Getting a little spillage out of the radiator, but nothing big. And I've got coolant, so next step, we're gonna remove the power steering pump reservoir. Should be some 10 millimeters. Don't think I've ever actually taken this one off. Actually, can you just lift this? Yeah, you could, but I'll just pull the bracket. I think that'll be easier for me. So what I'm kind of envisioning, and you gotta get this out too. That came out way too easy. Ow. I think I just cut myself. It's okay. It's just pain. Yeah, that should be coming from the bottle. All right, so now we can take this. Let's see here. And we can, okay, nope, we can't move that as far as I thought because of the return line. Now the good news is that this does use just regular old Dexmerc or old Mercon. This Mercon's not made anymore. But I might need to disconnect that return line, which is this guy right here, so that I can actually slide the reservoir over. When I do that, it's gonna pee out a bunch of ATF. But we may need to do that simply because we have got to make room to get this booster out of here. And I guess the big thing is we got to get the bottle out of here. That's the big thing. All right, well, I'm gonna keep poking at it. And if I gotta slide some stuff around, I'll bring you guys back, show you what I slid around. So the next thing I'll go after, just to get more pieces moving around, is to remove the master cylinder. That's gonna be 2 nuts, and they are 13 millimeter. They are right in there. So there's 1 on each side. I think they're 13, so you're gonna wanna get at them with a wrench. All right, here's where we stand at the moment. I took the entire air intake out to make more room. I also my van had the leaky brake pressure switch fix done. So I got some of that wiring out of the way to clear a path for the degas bottle so it can swing over more. Because if you want to get to the other brake master cylinder nut, which is, it's a 14 millimeter, by the way, sorry about that, you got to move it if you want to actually get to it. And this one, because it was leaking, be prepared for a fight. That one was stuck pretty good. So I'm going to move this over now. We're going to get to the other side. And I'm not 100% how I want to do this after that, but we can at least do this part. Now, bottle is now leaking from something. Okay, there we go. Shouldn't be leaking anymore. Oh no. I made the radiator mad, so now it's leaking from the radiator again. But when you do move the bottle, make sure you may have to drain some coolant if your coolant level is full, right? But keep it below the level of this overflow. Otherwise, that's going to start peeing on you as well. I've got a pan under the van to catch what the radiator's peeing out. But now we have a much better view of our other side here. You can see those rust streaks. You can see, here's our other nut. This is the sensor I disconnected. So we're gonna try to get that guy off, and yeah, it's rusty all the way around the bore. So it would not surprise me at all if when I take this master cylinder off, that the actual bore where the push rod is and the booster is going to be completely loaded chock full of rust. Would not surprise me at all. But we're gonna find out. All right, let me get you in so you can see what's up. I was able to, down below here, I got the hose for the bottle. It gets pinned around the edge of the ABS computer. If you can get it back around, you get a lot more room to maneuver it. As you can see, I can actually get it past there. So now I can move it even further because I got it past the dipstick. But that got me plenty of room, and I was able to successfully pull the master out and carefully bend these brake lines so that I could just slide the master out of the way. And you'll see this design is a little different than what I'm used to seeing. It's got a big metal rod in the back of the master that then meets up with the push rod. And that looks like it's still an adjustable push rod. Kind of a pain to get in there and adjust it, but that's the push rod inside of the brake booster. And when you hit the brakes, this push rod actually pushes on the back of the master cylinder for you. And then in turn, the master cylinder puts pressure going through these brake lines out to your brakes. And that's actually how your brakes wind up squeezing or expanding if you've got drums, and you stop. So that's how that works. We got a big old spring in here. We got a lot of rust. So this wetness is Croil from me trying to use some penetrating lubricant. I don't know if we're still leaking. I don't feel a leak coming off the back here. I'm gonna guess that this was leaking and then Ford replaced it with another Ford Master, because this is a Ford Master cylinder, I'm pretty sure. Best I can tell, it is. Yeah, all right. So we got this part done, and I think with some care and some luck, Toughest part is going to be this right here. It's getting around that. Because I can pop this loose from the fender, and that'll give us some flexibility to get this out of the way. So that really just leaves this as a potential rut row for trying to get this guy out, and we can't do a whole lot with this because it's a pretty big harness. Can't really muscle it around. But okay, we are more or less done on the outside here, and now we got to go inside and actually loosen some stuff up. Alrighty, welcome to the back half of your brake booster. See those 4 nuts? Oh, great, they put metal. I sincerely hope that bracket just slides off backwards, because otherwise, oh, this is going to be terrible. Yeah, okay, so the bracket doesn't move, and the rest of the assembly is going to have to go forward. So you can see there is a rod that pushes into the back of the booster, and you have 4 nuts. They're going to need to come off. And then we have our brake on-off switch that we're going to have to work around. This is what actually sends the signal to turn the brake lights on and off when you press the pedal. So if your tail lights aren't lighting up or your brake lights aren't lighting up, you definitely want to check this guy out. They do occasionally go bad, so keep that in mind. But we're going to need to figure out how this rod is connected to the booster, and then get them to disconnect, so that way we can actually pull the booster forward and out through the engine bay. So that is our next series of challenges. Let me look on the other side of this pedal, because we got not a ton of room to work in because we've got a doghouse in the way. And let me see, the big thing is we got to disconnect the pedal from the booster. Let's figure out how to do that, and then we can go from there. Well, the good news is it's a simple answer here. The way we're going to disconnect this is we got to slide the brake on-off switch off. You see that yellow safety pin or cotter pin? We get that out, the brake on-off switch will slide off to the right. And once that's off, we can actually, there should be the metal rod to the push rod. Sorry, to the brake booster. Should just slide off to the right as well. And then there's going to be a post on the brake pedal. So we disconnect that there. That should get the brake pedal free. That should disconnect the linkage between the two. And then we can take on those 4 nuts. And then we should, a little bit of luck, be able to just pull the booster out. And we're going to have to wrestle with it, I'm sure, but I think we can do it. Okay, you're going to get a couple pieces out of this. There's a washer that goes on the outside that goes next to your safety pin, your cotter pin. You got your cotter pin. And then you have this, not sure what you would call it, maybe a washer. It's going to go inside like this kind of thing, except for it has to go in before you slide the brake on-off switch where it's supposed to go. But don't lose those. And then there is also one more. There you go. There's one more washer there. Don't lose that. But we are now separate, right? So we're good to go there. Next step is to get those nuts off. Those are probably 14s. I will check. And this is a case where we're probably going to want some power tool. We're going to want some wobbles so we can get some angle on stuff, because a wrench is not going to be so great here because of that lip that goes around the bracket. So let's figure out what tools we can bring to bear. Alrighty, so it turns out that is a 13 millimeter, not a 14 as I originally thought. But we got a 13, we've got tooling. That's one. 2. And I'm gonna need both hands up there. We're gonna need, yeah, I'm gonna need some wobbles to get the angle to get around that. But yeah, this is going better than I hoped. Okay, so got all the nuts off, got the pedal disconnected. Now we got to slide this guy forward. Like I said, I can kind of take that up. Oh boy. Move you guys over here. Ow. There it goes. Yep, there's that piece I was talking about. Okay, so this thing's actually fairly short. This is a good thing. Maybe I can rotate it around. Almost. Oh, must not destroy PDU. Oh. Got it. And this thing absolutely has, well, you guys can't see it, but this is probably coil that leaked down, but here you go. So I was just feeling and seeing, but that's probably coil. So there you have it. That's our booster. Boy, that was fun. Let's do it again. Let me go get the replacement and see what we can do. And look, you guys get another unboxing video. Let's see what we have here. Looks like a booster. And it says, has all sorts of things. We even have instructions. 1.5 hours. That's probably about right. And they gave us, so it looks about right. Well, these things do start to kind of immediately rust, so don't worry about that. These days it's hard to get a brand new one, so this is a reman, I believe. And you got a nice big warning saying that if your master cylinder is leaking and this thing goes bad, it's not their problem. So make sure you check your master and make sure you don't see any active fluid leaking, because if you do, it gets in here, it's gonna go bad. And they were kind enough to give us a new check valve and a new grommet, and they clearly say don't pull this out, because if you do, you may introduce a leak, and that's not our problem. So here's what we have. All right, so what I'm gonna do just to make me feel better is, I've never seen a master that's got a big cylinder coming out the back. I'm gonna go do some part lookups, make sure that there's nothing weird going on with the brake master cylinder, and then if everything's okay, we'll proceed with installing the new one. So I'll be back. All right, so I took a look, and this rod that you see sticking out the back of the master cylinder, that's the normal design for this vehicle. So that, I was afraid that might be something stuck, but it's not. That's normal. So we're gonna roll with that. I'm gonna go ahead. You're gonna watch me wrestle the new booster in, name of the game, get everything lined up with those 4 holes that are, you know, where our nuts go. Get this back in, and then it's just going to be reverse of what we did to take it apart. We'll put the nuts back on, we'll put the brake on off switch back on. We'll sling this back over, get it back in position. We'll get the bottle moved over. We'll tighten this back up. You know, we'll just put it all back together and then see if we have an appreciable difference. All right, here we go. And if you're wondering which way is up, you'll know that based on the location of the check valve. Check valve is going to be at the top. So let's get this guy in here. Okay, so caught. Now we're not caught. We're still caught on stuff. We don't want to lose our boot. And that boot absolutely can fall off. Look at how that goes. Okay. There we go. There we go. All right, got the tail in. Now I just got to line up these bolts. Close. Now I can't see what I'm doing. All right, flashlight time. We're on it. I guess we just need to get on it square. This will actually work its way in. Go. If it's something stupid like it's one size something or another. That is sticking and I don't know why. Well, it feels like it's partially gone in. I'm gonna go look from the other side, see if something weird's going on. Here's what we got on the back side. You can see we're partially in. I think this is a case of it's feeling uneven because you can see some of those studs are in further than others. So I need to back out the bottom studs a little, push on the top, try to get it the height centered. And if I can do that, I think we'll be all right. It could also be this right here where it's kind of getting stuck on the tail. I think that tail's supposed to be down. So we'll try that. I don't think I can slide it on yet because it's not far enough back. But let me keep wiggling on this, just kind of show you what I'm seeing from the back. This needs to come out. That top one just really doesn't want to go. I don't know why. It's just that one guy up top. There it goes. Okay. Bueno. All right, I'm gonna put the nuts back on the back. And then I will move the master cylinder back in position. Get that guy back on. All right, so there we are. As you can see, I've got the tail back on. Turns out that tail needed to be pointing kind of upwards versus downwards in order for it to line up with the brake paddle. So at this point, your booster would be working. but we need to get our brake on-off switch back on, and that can be a little bit aggravating because of how it's shaped. So let's take a look at it. You can see we got a hole there. That's fine. Check it out. It's meant to slide over the tail from the booster, and it goes in this orientation, and you can tell that because this side is so open. So you're supposed to slide it down and over before you have any post sticking out on the other side of this. So it needs to be kind of like that when you put it on, and then you can slide it over. But to make things more interesting, you have to get this installed first, and then you slide that over. And when all is said and done, and you slide this back over to the left, that's when you install this guy, this spacer washer, and then your cotter pin. So I'm going to try to do this one-handed. It's probably not going to end well, but let's see. All right, we need, slide this, yeah, there went that. Okay, so we're kind of like this. Oh, we need to do that, don't we? Yep, we need to do that. Okay, so now our end spacer's on. So then take this and we got to drop it on like that. Then we slide it over. We try to slide it over, and it fights us really hard. There we go. Okay, so now we're slid over. Right, and now we got some room. So we put, I know the angle's not great and I apologize. We put our washer back on. And then the last thing we do is, as long as you've got the holes visible in the pin, which I'm not giving you a great picture, there's going to be a hole that goes through it. And that's where you slide the yellow safety pin that holds the whole assembly on. All right, your end result is something like that. So that is how you correctly reassemble. Oh shoot, I should not have done that. The brake on-off switch. So that's good to go. We got our nuts back in. So now we go back to the engine bay and we got to put the master cylinder back on. Give you kind of an angle shot here. So we carefully bent these brake lines to get it all out of the way, and now we're going to have to carefully bend them back. Do this at your own risk. These are steel lines. They're fairly bendable, but they're not like nickel copper lines, which you can darn near, tie them in a bow and they're fine. So be very careful when you do this, because if you wind up pinching any of these shut, you're going to be running new brake line. And you are not going to be a happy camper, because brake line sucks. Ask me how I know. So we're going to carefully kind of bring this back down, kind of bring it over. And then we're going to have to struggle with getting it back on. There we go. We don't want this cable back here, so get that out of the way. Okay, so now you're going to want to use those two nuts you got to tighten it in. Now what's interesting is I've worked on some other Fords where you actually wind up with two nuts per post. You have, oh wait, I know why that was. There was a a bracket that helped hold the brake line. That's why there were 2 nuts. Okay, and there's no brackets in this case. So we can get these back on. Remember, they're 14s. And once that's all nice and snug, the last thing, well, we're going to keep rebuilding stuff. And actually one of the last things we're going to do is address our check valve, because it's pointed off at a weird angle. We're going to need to swing it around so we can actually line it up with our vacuum source, which is this guy right here. And I got a worm clamp because the original spring clamp was getting kind of worn out. So pro tip while you do this, you don't want to crank one side all the way down and then come back to the other side and crank it all the way down, because what that does, if you imagine these are your 2 sides, you wind up doing that and it jams against the threads and you increase the danger of damaging your threads. So you want to do a little on this side, little on that side, little on this side, little on that side, and walk it back to where it's snug. You don't want to, that doesn't work very well. All right, and that is that. You want to make these nuts pretty decently snug. You don't want to, kill them, but you don't want it loose at all because of how this whole system works, right? You've got a push rod that's inside the booster. It pushes on the back of the master cylinder. That in turn pushes on your brakes. So if there's any slop in that chain of events, your brakes don't work right. So make sure the nuts are on snug. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kind of put this back together. And then after that, I'm going to move our degas bottle back where it belongs, put all the brake electronics back together, all that jazz. And bring you back if something comes up that is noteworthy, because you saw what I did to get this moving around. The key thing is you're going to have to work the cooling hose that goes into the degas bottle. You're going to have to work it back around the ABS pump and kind of move it over. Okay, so that takes care of our overflow and degas bottle. So all that's done. Next step is to redo all the electronics around the secondary brake pressure cutoff switch, which is, show you, it's this guy down here. And that is for your cruise control. That's what this is for. And Ford had a nasty habit of those leaking when they first rolled this vehicle out, so it was a thing. And there was a repair kit they gave everybody. That's what this tag's all about, and all these extra wires and basically things were catching on fire, and it was not good, not a good time. So we'll get that back together, and then I need to reroute this because I figured out it's supposed to clip into some holes. Actually, it's supposed to clip in, I think, to these holes here on the side and run along the top. And I never knew that. I know that now, but in order for that to work, I have to get it out from under this is throttle and cruise cables. So yeah, we're coming along. I am excited. All right, so you can see I'm rebuilding the air intake. My suggestion here is to leave this clamp back here loose so you can get the perfect lineup you want on this. Don't forget to plug, I think that's IAT back in. And then your MAF right here. Don't forget to grab that before you go to get everything seated. Put your 8mm back in, and then there's a little arm that's off camera. You'll slide that back on, not a big deal. As you can see, I also took care of our check valve and our vacuum inlet. All that looks good. I tried hanging this thing up where you're supposed to hang it, and I guess I ran a custom line whenever I fixed this fan. I actually got it running because it's too long, and I don't feel like cutting it because it always seems to bite me in the butt. So it's long enough that it sits on top of the rad hose and the fan shroud. Stays out of all the rotationals. Should be fine. If I need to wiggle some stuff around, I can. And there you have it. We got everything back together. I need to top off my coolant because I had some leak. And you most likely did too, if you did this the same way I did. So I'm gonna top off some fluids here and there. What that's all about. And then as far as testing this, the easiest way to test this, if your booster was totally blown, then you should be able to put your foot on the brake pedal. Oh, I'll show you. Okay, if your booster was totally blown, you should be able to put your foot on the pedal like this, and then turn on the car, and then the pedal sink down to the bottom. That means you're building vacuum and the assist is working. If it's a case where it's leaking like mine, what you're gonna have to do is turn the car on, let it run for a second, turn it back off, and then just wait. Come back and check in 30 minutes, come back and check in an hour. See if you still get that, you got that vacuum assist for more than 5 minutes after you turn it off. And if so, you fix the leak, and this is gonna help when the engine is running, because when it's running and it's leaking, that's an active vacuum leak. And without going too much in the rabbit hole about vacuum, engines don't like vacuum leaks. The only vacuum leaks they like are the ones they know about and can control and adjust for, like a PCV valve. If there's an unexpected vacuum leak and the engine is not aware of it and doesn't know what to do about it, it causes running problems. It can cause, in severe cases, your engine to stall out because it doesn't have enough vacuum. This goes back to the fact that engines are actually just air pumps. They pump in air and they fart air out and they explode stuff along the way. Some fascinating reading to do if you want to do that. But anyway, again, without diving too deep in there, unmetered, unknown vacuum leaks are bad from an engine's point of view. So if you were leaking and you put this in and fixed it, well, now that leak is gone. So you might see your idle drop a little bit lower. You might see your brakes work a little bit better. One of the problems this van has is when you are under heavy throttle, like you're accelerating hard up a hill or something, there's enough vacuum gets lost that the HVAC doesn't work right anymore. Instead of blowing out the vents up top, it thinks you've moved the switch to floor. It thinks you've done this. And it starts blowing out your feet. That's vacuum controlled. And you lose enough vacuum, it starts going to other positions that are lower vacuum positions. And I'm hoping to fix that, because it's pretty obnoxious on a hot day when, you know, you're gunning up a hill and then suddenly your feet start getting air conditioned instead of your face. Anyway, I'm not going to crank because I want to change out fluids and things before the engine gets hot, and then I'll start testing this stuff and I'll let you guys know. Okay, moment of truth. I had not pressed the brake pedal before turning the engine off. It's been half an hour. Let's see what we get. Oh yeah, we have vacuum, baby. Could not do that before, so that's a confirmation. Booster was leaking. It's not leaking anymore. So hopefully that means that that'll fix some of those issues I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to call this a good repair. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode where we replaced the power brake booster on my 1997 Ford E-150 Starcraft conversion van named Enigma. If you found this video interesting, if you found it entertaining, if you learned something, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. It does allow me to grow the channel and bring you more projects like this. Please also leave a comment. I like to read them, I like to reply to them, and I like to learn from them. And lastly, guys, I make the mistakes and I actually film them so you don't have to. And I'll catch you guys next episode.